I'm a feminist, but I've taken to cheese grating my face 3 times a week. Now, I've brought the grater so I can show you. This is Trini London.
She's smaller than I remember.
So there's this. So see this. This is a like a microplaner or something they call it. But basically, it's a cheese grater on a wheel, and in the evening you have to do it at night. 3 times a week.
Is that because it bleeds?
No, but you need to give it overnight to heal. Now, what it does, it's very good. You do it in all different directions. I can't do it now with my makeup, but you can see. I'm demonstrating it. Left, right,
You're
up,
demonstrating it, I think.
Up, down, up and down. And then I put some serum on it. And it's very important this serum goes on. It's a serum that only Trini sells, so that's important. And
it's the only one that works.
And the serum, it is true, once you have done this, once you've cheese grated your face, the serum really goes in, it sinks in, because there's holes for it to sink into. The next day, it's very key, you mustn't put anything on but this serum. Don't put on any active products. Now, I didn't know what active products were, but I found out by accidentally putting them on the next day. It's anything with, acid or any of those other things in.
I hate when you put acid on your face the next day.
Well, everybody does now, though, because you've got all these different products that are meant to activate stuff, and that felt quite hot and tingly and a little bit burny, and I had to take it off. But what this does is, another good thing is you use less product because you can't use a lot of products after it. And I have noticed a distinct difference in my face since I've been cheese grating it. So I recommend it.
Is this an I'm a Feminist but or an actual ad for Trini London's cheese grater?
Listen, I have not got anything for free. I've bought all of this, but I just wanted you to know about it. Now,
Trini, if you are listening.
If Trini wants to send me anything, I will happily take it. But it's been a revelation. What it does, Flick, is when you're...
We don't actually have time for the guests because it's an infomercial. And what is this retailing for, Deb, actually?
I actually can't remember. But when you...
But we have a sale, and if you use the code Guilty Feminist, you will...
There is no such code. I genuinely am doing a public service broadcast announcement. It's really helped. What it does is it picks a fight with your collagen because as you get older, your collagen, you can't be asked to go out. You're meant to go to a birthday party on Saturday night. You think, I'm just going to stay home and watch
Strictly. I haven't been invited to a party in years.
That's not true. But you think, I'm just going to stay home and watch Strictly. I can't do it. I've just got to lie on the sofa. That's what your collagen's doing. As it gets older, it just goes, I don't think I can be asked. So you have to pick a fight with it with the cheese grater. You roll it up and down. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't. It looks like it hurts.
You're not selling it to me, buddy.
And what happens is your collagen goes, go away, leave me alone. And then you go, you're just going to lie there. And it goes, leave me alone. And then you roll it again and go, just going to lie there. And it goes, oh, fuck off. And it gets up and starts fighting. And so it reactivates your collagen.
Okay. How long have you been using this product, Deb?
3 months.
And have you seen a significant difference in the collagen of your skin? Well, I don't even know what you're supposed to be looking for.
Last time you saw me, I looked about 72, and now I look 16. So you be the
it's
judge.
Very true. You do look 16.
Have you got one?
A cheese grater? No, but I do have an I'm a Feminist but. I'm a Feminist but I read a book on the first Women's Cricket World Cup. And it was so boring, the only parts I enjoyed were the 2 forwards, both written by men.
Oh!
Sorry, ladies.
Fair. I'm a feminist, but I quite want one of those advent calendars that look like a Victorian shop and have beauty treats hiding in them, because there's never anything nice in any of the news stories I click on. And sometimes, instead of the worst thing in the world, I just want a baby pink bit lip balm and silver eyeshadow.
Yeah, I hear you, mate. In these dark times, sometimes you need something to sparkle, and if that's your eyeshadow, then so be it.
It's like, what's behind the little door? Because I never had an advent calendar as a kid. We didn't have them.
Well, you didn't have anything. You were Jehovah's Witness.
No, but I wasn't before. But
this is before that.
No,
that sounded sassy, and I apologise.
No, you're right. As a Jehovah's Witness, I wouldn't have been allowed to have one. But we weren't Jehovah's Witnesses before I was 14. So we had normal Christmases up until then.
And you never had an advent calendar?
I don't think they were a thing in Australia.
No, they weren't. Well, the chocolate melts.
I just don't think they were a thing. I'd never heard of them.
I've had one.
Did you?
Yeah, I had a couple. I mean, they weren't big in our house, but when we got them, mate, the chocolate was cheap. Let me tell you that. My mother, we were poor. look, this isn't the time. Advent calendars in Australia, they're probably bigger now, but they weren't in the 80s. They weren't as big a thing, but we had them. Maybe just not in Queensland.
I think Queensland was missed out, or I don't know. My family just
Queensland missed
my
out
family
on a
didn't do
lot.
it. Look, just buy me an Advent calendar with some nice things in, all right?
I can't believe I've even written this. Sorry. I'm a feminist, but I have been sleeping with men. I'm so sorry. If it helps, it's been heaps of them. I got a divorce. Well, no, I still don't have a divorce. I separated from my ex-husband about 3 years ago and came out as bi maybe a year before we broke up, 2 years, unrelated events.
Somebody in my circle says this is the Guilty Feminist curse, that
yes.
At the beginning of the Guilty Feminist,
yes.
Almost all the regular co-hosts were straight.
Yes.
And they have fallen one by one, myself included.
I literally pitched a sitcom and used this as the...
Really?
Not the podcast wasn't part of the sitcom, but it was... Look, let me tell you a little story, everyone. Basically what happened was... so we were all straight, apparently, and you were sort of talking about exploring bisexuality, and then there was Jess Fosterque, and then there was me, and it was like, I think that there's something in people that are born, like exennials especially, that we didn't really have in Australia anyway. We didn't have, you had gay and you had straight, and gay was bad and straight was the only option. And so bisexuality didn't really exist as a concept for me. And it wasn't until I was in my 30s that I sort of like met and were friends with bisexuals. And then Guilty Feminist was sort of like this, it was sort of like you could cosplay bisexuality in front of other people who weren't sure if they were bisexual, while it was difficult to do it in front of queer people because you didn't want them to go, why don't you just go and fuck a woman? Or you didn't want them to go, you're not bi. Like, it was like a very safe place to go, she's hot, isn't she? And then we all fell like dominoes.
And it just opened the door to an Advent calendar from which you could never return.
That's right.
Weirdly, that you say you didn't have bisexuality where you went to school in Australia. We didn't have Advent calendars, but we
Maybe
did have...
there's a connection.
But we did have bisexuality because I remember the term at my school was double adapter.
Oh!
Yeah, people would go,
that rings a bell.
People would go, I think she's a double adapter. That's,
yeah. Oh my God,
Does that ring a bell? Yeah.
It does. I feel like it was far more homophobic the way we used it though.
Oh yeah, no, it was definitely phobic. It was definitely, well, it wasn't even legal in Queensland when I was growing up.
Yeah. Look, Australia's a very progressive place.
Queensland is the Florida of Australia, basically.
Yeah,
it's
very, yes.
They and it's only beaten by Tasmania in its,
And they couldn't help it. They couldn't help it. They were off the side. They were very far from the mainland.
I'm not sure you can say they couldn't help it, but continue.
They could help it. They absolutely could. I just realised what I was saying. Just making excuses for the fact that homosexuality was illegal until like 1991 in Tasmania, I think.
Yeah, I think it was later than that.
Was it later?
Oh, no, it was equal marriage that was very, very late. But around those eras. I'm a feminist. But tonight we are doing a show about keeping Christian nationalism out of our churches, and I think unconsciously I chose a dress from my wardrobe I could have been confirmed in. Imagine this in white, and me without so much wisdom in my eyes. Imagine me more naive, and this is white. It is. I'm not wrong, am I? This is exactly like a friend of mine's confirmation dress. I was confirmed as in the Anglican Church before I exited to be a Jehovah's Witness. I've done it all.
I was confirmed in the Catholic Church by choice under no duress at age 9.
Oh,
what a little weirdo. Not weird to be a part of a faith at all. But my sister had to become a Catholic so she could get into this high school. She's like, yeah, fine. I'll come up with a confirmation name, fine. She chose Ignatius. What a little bitch. Like, just to show them that she's like not taking this seriously. And then I said to my mum, I'm like, I would actually like to join the Catholic Church. And she went, you don't have to. I'm like, I know. I've had a read of the brochure and I'm interested. And I became a Catholic.
Bless you.
Yeah. And then they did.
They did. Do you still identify as Catholic now?
I don't still identify as Catholic. I'm one of those awful spiritual, not religious people. I'm the equivalent of when a man has a T-shirt on but no underpants. You're like, you've got to put some pants on or take the T-shirt off, but this is very hard to manage as it is.
You think that's how you're spiritual?
I think so. No, it's an analogy. I don't think that's how my spirituality expresses itself.
I understand it's an analogy,
like
but
Paddington, no pants, but
I understand. They call that in animation. They call that Winnie the Poohing.
Winnie the Poohing. Yeah. It was a bear.
I understand that it is an analogy. I just believe no one in this room understands the analogy. I truly believe nobody gets it. Like, I don't think it's just me. Is it just me? Does anyone understand it? Yeah. Oh, yeah, people do.
There we go. There's some people with ADHD out there. They get it.
I've got ADHD, and I just have no clue.
I feel like it's like a weak middle ground.
Oh, okay. Well, you say I'm spiritual, but I have no.
Yeah, I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. I'm not committed to any sort of organised religion. I have an amorphous, sometimes changing experience with spirituality, where I do have a connection to a faith. And God, it makes British people uncomfortable when you talk about spirituality, and I fucking love it. I can hear your little assholes clenching, going, please don't continue talking about this, and I will. So I sort of have I think it's called pantheism, where you have a feeling of God in nature. I think that's what it is. I remember that from studying Jane Eyre in high school. And so when I'm in nature, that's when I feel the most spiritual and of like my whole self, I suppose.
I understand that.
Is it mine?
Do you have another one?
Yes, I do. To continue my last one, I'm a feminist, but we have a word in Australia, root, which means shag, and there's a very misogynistic phrase that Australian men use about a woman that they perceive to be uptight or controlling, or basically what will happen is a woman will behave in a certain way, she'll leave, and then the men will say to each other, and it's disgusting, they'll go, she probably just needs a root. Disgusting, misogynistic, reductive. Sometimes I've found you do just need a root. Sometimes.
Felicity Ward.
What? Have you ever been very stressed out and then had very good sex and gone, maybe it is going to be okay?
I mean, I do understand what you're saying.
It's called the Guilty Feminist, Deborah. It's not called the Very Good Feminist.
Well, that is our defence, yes.
I am a feminist, but sometimes misogynism, sometimes misogyny, occasionally. A broken clock is right twice a day. You know what I mean?
If you're a man and you're listening to this, can I just say...
My number is 07...
Live from the Pleasance in London, the Spontaneity Shop presents the Guilty Feminist with me, Deborah Frances-White, guest host Felicity Ward, and our very special guests, Minnie Rahman and the Reverend Lucy Winkett, talking about Christian nationalism and how to keep it out of our churches and faith-based communities. Oh, it's so good to see so many of you. Thank you so much for coming out. This is the third in our Road to Gilead series. Does everyone know what Road to Gilead is? Just give us a cheer if you're here for a regular Guilty Feminist. Just give us a cheer if you're here for the Road to Gilead Guilty Feminist. Yay! Oh, great. Okay, so I don't really have to explain it. Basically, Gilead, that place in The Handmaid's Tale, we would not like to be there. It looks like certain things are clicking into place for that to happen. Will we let it? No! Absolutely not. Who says you can't combine panto season with fighting fascism, eh? Hey? Tonight, I'm so excited because we are actually looking at Christian nationalism and how to keep it out of our churches and faith-based communities and faith-based charities and foundations. So I'm really excited because we're really going to get into the weeds. We're really going to go there. Are you ready to go there? Excellent. I think I'm meant to be being filmed at all times. I really hate it. I just feel like I am constantly in this nasty combination of 1984 with Big Brother watching me and a self-imposed Clockwork Orange, where I just scroll all day and all night. And I don't like always being filmed while always watching a film. But here I am, and now this has come into my life. I used to love podcasting when it was just audio. I just bang on a tiny bit of eyeliner backstage. Now I have to spend ages doing it. I'm a feminist, but did it work? Yeah. These eyelashes aren't real. Of course they're not. Just give us a cheer if you think you've got a feminist job. Woo! Give us a cheer if you think you've got an unfeminist job. Woo! Excellent. I'm interested in those. Who thinks they've got an unfeminist job? Who said woo? Woo! Woo? What's yours?
I'm a civil servant.
You're a civil servant. Well, that's not necessarily unfeminist. What are you civiling? Who are you serving? I mean, you could be. I mean, civil servants is we love that when the government provides services.
I work in fraud for the DWP.
You work in fraud for the DWP. So, what's the DWP? Department of Work and Pensions. Yes, thank you. I knew it as soon as I asked it. I just was one of those ones where, I mean, I don't go around calling it the DWP because I don't work there. So you work in fraud. So if somebody has claimed 10p more than they should with their pension, you go round and send the boys round. Yeah, that's the most unfeminist job I've ever heard of. I was really trying to defend you there, but I cannot. I'd ask your name, but I don't want to because I don't want people to turn on you. Do you do any secret, hidden feminism within that job? Because what I find is that often women will say, I've got an unfeminist job, but then you ask them and you probe a bit, and it turns out they're doing all sorts of Trojan horse feminism. And what they've done is they've taken an unfeminist job in an unfeminist company, and they're just secretly doing all this stuff that nobody knows about. Some of it could get them fired. In fact, one woman told me something, and I said, could you not go to prison for that? And she went, I hate my job anyway. Which, do you ever do anything that's a little bit like, oh, I'll just look the other way on that?
Sadly not.
Sadly not. Okay. Is there any part of you that thinks I might change jobs?
Probably not.
Probably not. Okay. What I love about, I don't want to assume you're a man. Are you a man?
Yes.
What I love about men is their confidence to just sit in a room full of feminists and go, I'm doing something really unfeminist, I'm not trying to help, and I'm not going to change. But it's the satisfied nature of I mean, I think we all need to be realistic about what's going to happen here, and I'm not even going to fake it for you. Do you do feminist things in the rest of your life? Sir? You've come to this?
Yes.
Why? Has a woman brought you to this?
No.
No. You've come on your own.
I bought tickets.
You bought tickets. Okay. Is it a third date?
No.
No, because it's often this show is used as a third date show. Men meet women on Hinge. This is true. Men meet women on Hinge. First date, have a drink. Second date, have dinner. Third date, I've got tickets for this feminist show. See how safe I am. It's also quite entertaining, and there'll be booze there. And women are fooled every time. But I've outed you now, so it's not going to work. Anybody else? Anybody else got an unfeminist job? Just give us a cheer.
Yeah.
Yes, what's yours?
I'm a data governance and quality manager.
Data governance and quality manager. I tried to listen to that, but even as I repeated it, I zoned out of myself saying it. I have no idea what I've just said.
I make rules and I make people abide by rules.
You make rules and you make people abide by rules. I have to just put everything into the mic so that the people at home can hear. You make rules and you make people abide by rules. Do you do secret coded feminism?
I absolutely do.
Yes, of course you do.
I work in a technology department that is like an old boys club and I just dismantle it.
Oh, so you work in a technology department that's like an old boys club, and you just secretly dismantle it every day.
Yeah.
So you've just come in. Do they notice when you come in a big wooden horse every morning? Do they go, just something about her? So you're just dismantling it one day at a time.
Yeah, I have a feminist manager as well, so we kind of tag team either side.
Oh, amazing! You have a feminist manager and you tag team dismantling patriarchy while being paid for it. Yes, my friends. Yes, my friends. This is excellent. Anyone got a feminist job? Just give us a shout. People said they did before. Are they now thinking nothing can be as feminist as dismantling patriarchy one day at a time with a feminist manager? Anyone do anything that they want to tell us about that's feminist? Nobody wants to tell us about anything that they're doing feminist. That's never happened before. Yes, you'll go. Great.
I'm sorry, you were looking over there, so I was very confused.
I'm so sorry. No, I'll look wherever you want me to look. I'm incredibly amenable like that.
I just wasn't sure if there was someone else behind me. I work local government for a local council, and I'm a family support worker. Work with refugee women.
Local government, local council, working with refugee women. Excellent. Is everyone here working for the government? Am I being spied upon? We haven't found one person not working for the government, which makes me a little bit worried, but I'm delighted. That sounds amazing. Is there anything we can do to help with that, or not really, because you work for the government?
Oh God, yeah. There's so many. So we're putting on women's health projects. Getting information out there for them, because a lot of these communities, this information isn't getting to that. So yeah, we're working on that a lot.
So women's health projects and communicating with refugee women about health and what?
So menstrual health.
Menstrual health. Menopause.
Smear tests.
Smear tests. Excellent.
Exercise.
Exercise. I'm not just interested in that one. No, I am. I do feel better when I exercise. Every day I exercise, I feel better, and I think this is the answer. I have worked it out. This is the cure. If this came in a pill, you would take it every day. And then I do that for 3 days in a row, and on the fourth day I totally forget I've ever enjoyed it. And then I go, it doesn't sound like me. That's not something I'd like. But I over the years, I'm getting better. I know your services aren't for me. I've got a Peloton. Who do I think I am? Who do I think I am? What kind of fancy schmancy person? I got the Peloton in the lockdown. So don't judge me. And I'll probably die on it. It's all we see on the TV. I'll probably die on it like big. But listen, what a way to go. What a way to go. Okay, so I've been doing I've been trying to do a rousing speech at the top of all of these. And today I wanted to do something about a news story that came out today. Okay, so this is Sky News, and it's a guy called Tom Cheshire's written this story. He's the data and forensics correspondent. And the headline is The Rise of Christian Nationalism and Its Relationship with the Far Right. So I thought, on point. So he says, a new type of Christianity, more militant, more political, is on the rise. But some in the Church of England claim this is a corruption of their faith. And then he goes on to say, Bishop Kieran Dewar rejects the Church of England as heretics. He describes, the journalist describes Kieran Dewar baptising people on the beach in Cornwall, people who have come based on a social media post. One wears a T-shirt saying Jesus is King. Another wears a Union Jack anorak with a T-shirt emblazoned UTK, which stands for Unite the Kingdom. And that's the movement organised by anti-Islam campaigner Tommy Robinson. Wearing a white robe over a wetsuit, like John the Baptist himself, Dewar strides down the beach and prepares for a mass baptism. His voice booms out, "In the name of Jesus Christ, I gladly baptise you." Critics call Dewar the far-right bishop, a label he rejects. But he does represent a new type of Christianity, more militant, more political, and one that is on the rise. Several of those here on the beach to be baptised came because they saw Dewar preaching fire and brimstone at Robinson's Unite the Kingdom march on the 13th of September. That was a far-right anti-immigration march. One baptised man says, "I saw Kieran's speech at the Unite the Kingdom rally and thought it was just epic. I mean, I really loved it." The man says he used to be fairly lefty. After trying Buddhism and New Age practices, he came to Christianity. Note from me, this is now where the algorithm sends you. Dewar's appeal is not just religious. Online, he decries immigration and the influence of Islam, a message that chimed with this man. We are a Christian culture, a Christian nation, and I do feel we've lost a lot of that. A month earlier, Dewar had addressed the 150,000 strong crowd at the Unite the Kingdom march in London, bishop's crook in hand, his voice thundering out over Westminster. "God, you have not abandoned Britain." When he looked out, he saw not just British and English flags, but wooden crosses and depictions of Jesus. It was not his first appearance with Robinson. The year before, he spoke at another rally in Whitehall and said, "This nation of ours is under attack. We are at war. We are at war not just with Muslim, not just with wokeness." This is something new and growing, the journalist says. A movement that has long marched against immigration, against Islam, is now marching behind the cross. I asked Dewar what for him, as a Christian, is the appeal of Robinson. And Dewar says, it's not the appeal of Tommy Robinson per se, it was the opportunity that he afforded to me to stand in front of that many people and to both pray for the people and this nation. Kieran Dewar is also friends with Ricky Doolan, who was on stage at Tommy Robinson's rally too. It was Doolan who converted Tommy Robinson to Christianity 3 weeks before the latter left prison earlier this year. That was convenient timing. Doolan says it is a new journey for Robinson. Dewar has several mass baptisms planned across the country, so does Doolan. This is not just about the extreme right using Christianity for their own ends, the journalist says. It's just as much some Christians using the far right to reach new audiences. A new Christian politics in all sorts of ways and all sorts of places is on the march, the article ends. Now, this is me now. The algorithm is sending people looking for compassionate answers, looking for New Age practices, looking for Buddhism, to this as a place for answers and community. We need to be providing a better resting place, a more energized, kind and appealing space. We need to be creating an alternative within our secular spaces and within our faith communities. Tonight, we are working on that. Are you with us? Tonight, I'm very, very excited about our guests, and I'm very, very excited about where we might go in this discussion. Something I said at both other shows, and I think I'm just going to say it at every show because I think it's really important. We have 3.5 years till the next election. We've got to get organised if we do not want reform to get in, at least in coalition. We've really got to get organised. We might lose. And if we lose, this time will not have been wasted. Because if we lose, we will immediately need an army of well-connected, well-organised people to act as a resistance. It will be too late on day one, if we lose, to go, we need to be a resistance now. Do you know anyone who's interested? So win or lose, this next 3.5 years of getting organised, getting together, coming together for community events, creating spaces, creating projects, creating open spaces where we can talk, connected ideas, projects going on around the country. This will not be a waste. This is in fact going to drive an energy within us, and it's going to kind of bring us back to life. I don't know if anyone else has been feeling burnt out with it and like, what are we really doing, and we're losing. I think this next 3.5 years is going to give us life, it's going to give us energy, it's going to give us connection, it's going to give us purpose. And I think if we do it well and we get in early enough, I think we will win. And with that, are we ready to start the show? Then please welcome to the stage my incredible co-host for this evening is the wonderful Felicity Ward.
Which microphone can I have?
Oh, what a great question.
Yeah, that one?
That one.
Swapsies? Do you want to... I think...
Oh,
feel like... Why don't
you
we
know
swap
what?
microphones, babe?
I just gave a rousing speech about how we're going to get organised. Nobody's feeling confident now.
I'm a feminist, but...
We can't organise two microphone leads.
Swap. You take this microphone lead.
Okay.
Microphone lead, also known as a microphone.
Oh, God.
Come on, cunt. Mate.
Mr. Bean fights fascism.
Jesus Christ.
This is embarrassing. Oh, my God.
It's not even an act.
I know.
Hello, how you going? You good? Yes. I mean, apart from, the end of times, are we good?
Yeah. But I feel we're gonna come together. I feel very positive about it now. I was feeling down about it, but now I feel, in a way, they've done us a favour by going so far, because it's forcing us into action.
Yes.
It's forcing us into positive, connected action and
I mean, it is a shame that we had to get to that point, isn't it? It's a shame that we didn't halfway go, you know what? Maybe we should do something for us that's good. Yeah. We've gone, we're all about to die. Meeting?
That is very much what's happened. We're all about to die. Meeting. But here, thanks for coming to the meeting. Would you like to hear some stand-up comedy now? Then please welcome to the stage the incredible Felicity Ward.
Do you know, there was a part of me that went, who are we getting on? It's me. Tom's just moving the camera. Don't worry, Tom, I'll find my light. What was this? Can you tell? After I became a Catholic, I went to Performing Arts High School, if you couldn't tell. I mentioned ADHD before. I don't definitely know that I have ADHD, but there has been some signs. The first one happened in 1999 when I worked for a retired nurse at a cafe, and 2 weeks into working there, she grabbed me by the shoulders and said, "Felicity, can you please have some of my son's Ritalin? You definitely have ADHD." And I thought, you know what? I want to look after my health. I want to get on top of this. Let's get a diagnosis. So I went straight to the GP. 19 years later, and I got a referral to get tested for ADHD, and then I lost that referral. And then I went back to the doctors 2 years later to get another referral to get tested for ADHD, and then I also lost that referral. And I think that's the test. I have lost every pair of glasses I've ever owned. I'm short-sighted, which means I am terrible with money, and it's a shitty joke, but I keep saying it out loud. I've got the squinting one. I've got that one, as opposed to your mum who has that one. I don't know if you've looked at her phone recently and seen the size font of it. It's 264, and she can only get 4 letters on the screen at the same time. That's why it takes her so long to read a text message. It's not her fault. So I have the squinting one, and the problem with that is where it really comes into a problem is at music festivals. I love music festivals, so I'll go to a music festival, I'll be wearing my sunglasses, I'll be looking cool, but then if I want to see something in the distance, I've got to take my sunnies off, got to put my Nerdburger glasses on, right? So I had this brilliant idea, the last pair of glasses I lost. I'm like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to get another pair of glasses, but I'm also going to get prescription sunglasses so I can see and look cool at the same time. So I head down to the home of fashion, Vision Express. Well, they had buy one, get 50% off the second pair. I'm terrible with money. I'm not a fucking idiot. And so I go in and I do what anyone who wears glasses does. We all do this. We go in, we get a whole bunch of frames. We stand in front of the mirror. We try our first pair of frames on. We look into the mirror and we go, oh, I wish I had my glasses on so I could see whether these suited me or not. And then we do that for about 3 hours, and then we just randomly pick 2 pairs so we don't cry in public. And then I went over to the counter, and there was this young woman behind the counter, and she had a cool haircut, and she had a cool outfit, and I'm thinking she's going to look at me and go, oh, you're so young and relevant. And, all right, go fuck yourself, Deb. That was loud. So I went up and I said, hello, and my voice broke. And I said, hello, I'm a 45-year-old woman, but my testicles are dropping, apparently. I said, I'd like to get these 2 pairs of glasses. I'd like to get these prescription, but I'd also like to get these sunglasses prescription. And then she looked at the 2 glasses, the 2 frames. She looked at me, and then she said, oh, you've got 2 pairs of frames here. Have you considered getting 1 pair of transition lenses? And I said, what? Have I considered moving into a nursing home? Now, if you don't know what transition lenses are, if you don't know them, when you're inside, they're clear, they look like a regular pair of glasses, and then you step outside, and then they perv over into a darker shade. So I said, no, thank you, I'll get the 2 pairs of glasses, I'll get these regular prescription, these sunglasses prescription, I'm trying to look cool. And she goes, honestly, just try them on, they're really practical. I'm like, oh, practical's the same as cool, isn't it? I don't know if you've ever seen an umbrella hat before. They're very practical. Little hat band, little umbrella on top. I went to a music festival recently and there was a man wearing an umbrella hat and it was raining. And he had the driest ears in all the land. But I'm never going to wear an umbrella hat because I would like to have sex ever again. So I said, no, thank you. I'll get the 2 pairs of glasses. I'll get these prescription. I'll get these sunglasses prescription. And then she said, honestly, just try them on. You'll look really cool. And then I tried them on. And then I looked really cool. And then I bought a pair of transition lenses. No, I left the shop. Don't cheer that. I left the shop and I looked at myself in the reflection. I was like, that is a good investment. You look like a cool bitch. Well done. This is going to go great. And then after just a cursory Google, it turns out they are worn exclusively by pensioners and sexual predators. And these things are sensitive to light. I open a fridge door, there's a solar eclipse in my house. And they're never fully clear and they're never fully dark. So I just always look like I'm up to something. I just go and buy bread. I'm like, excuse me, do you have wholemeal? They're like, what are you going to do with it, you sicko? Get out of my shop. I've got a 6-year-old. I'm at playgrounds all the time with these creepy little goggles just following me around going, call me mum, call me mum, call me mum. Call the police, you know what I mean? In my lounge room, I've got a big window, so if I've got a friend over there, I'm sitting down, they come in, they see their friend sitting on the sofa. Then the sun comes out from behind the cloud, they look back, and there's a 1970s pervert sitting there. The worst part of all is, I only bought one pair of glasses, so I didn't get my 50% off the second pair, so I spent £480 to look like Jimmy fucking Savile. Don't worry, I lost them. There you go.
Felicity Ward, everybody! Now, Flick, do you want to move over here?
I sure do.
And leave that one over there. That was brilliant. Now, I only laughed loudly on that part because of the word relevant. It's a very funny word. It wasn't the young. It was that you said, I want her to think I'm young and relevant. And that's what I thought was incredibly funny.
Can I tell you, Deb?
Yeah.
It's never wrong to laugh at a joke.
No, but it
And
was,
as a comedian, I'm desperate for any noise.
But it was the way you said, fuck you, Deb, for laughing at that joke that made me think I should probably say something.
Can
But
I tell you
also-
something secret?
Yeah.
I say that every single time I do that routine to whoever laughs.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I was...
So you really fell hook, line and sinker to that
I
little
did.
trap.
I
Because
did.
they didn't laugh at all.
I did. But if you are feeling like you're not young and relevant
I do
enough...
need a cheese grater. You're not going to believe
Can I
this.
recommend this cheese grater? Can I just do it on the back of your hand?
Yeah. I mean, if anything needs it, my hand need it. I was a dish pig. That was my first job. And so I have the hands of an 85-year-old.
Oh, Jess Fosterkeep was saying the same thing.
From washing
I'm gonna
dishes.
Actually, I might start doing it on my hands. See, it doesn't feel bad, does it?
This is a Black Mirror episode. We cut to Deb at home just with 9 cheese graters all over it. This is the substance. This is the substance all over it.
I'm telling you, everyone should get one. It's a miracle. All right, are we ready for our guest to talk about sensible things?
Get your shit together, Pleasance. When we ask you a question, we need cheering, all right?
Yep.
Get activated.
Excellent.
The Gilead is coming.
Our first guest today is the CEO of Praxis, an award-winning migrants' rights charity based in London. She was most recently the chief coordinator for Grenfell Testimony Week in 2024 and previously held a variety of senior positions at the Joint Council for the Welfare of Migrants. Please welcome to the stage Minnie Rahman. Hello, Minnie. Welcome. She is joined by a writer, broadcaster and musician who was one of the first generation of women to be ordained priest in the 1990s and the first woman priest to be appointed to St Paul's Cathedral. She holds degrees in modern history and theology from Cambridge and Birmingham and was a founding advisor for the public theology think tank Theos and later Tortoise Media. Please welcome the rector of St James's Piccadilly, Reverend Lucy Winkett. Hello. Hello and welcome. So first of all, thank you very much for joining us here. Much appreciate you coming. And could you just, Lucy, tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, wow. Yeah. I was ordained a priest 30 years ago, actually, this year. I'm going to do Unity years. That's sort of amazing.
You look very young.
that's-
Have you been using a cheese grater?
Thank you so much.
don't look
I
old
really
enough.
love that cheese grater. We could give it out with communion wine, maybe.
Oh, yes.
If I could get some adverts, that would be good.
Never
Absolutely.
drink and great. That's my
Oh, that's a
policy.
good point.
You
Yeah,
go
fair
too
enough.
hard, you lose a little bit of sensitivity.
So I was a singer before I was a priest. So I did some training and
What
worked
kind
as
of
a singer. Well, classical music mostly. So early music and a bit of opera. But then as I smoked more cigarettes, I got into jazz a bit more.
Cool priest.
But no. But yeah, so I mean, I've had all that time in the church, and I think there was one really. I haven't remembered this for years, but just as you were talking, it really came back to me. So one of the things we're really good at in the church is answering questions nobody is asking, and we also give ourselves lots of titles that no one understands. So when I was at St Paul's Cathedral, I was called the precentor. So those of you who know Latin, you'll know that's the person who sings first, precentor. And I was on the phone to somebody, and I said, we were organising a service or something, and this woman said, I just introduced myself, and I heard her put her hand over the phone, and she said, there's somebody called a placenta on the phone. And so I haven't remembered that for years until you were talking about what you were talking about. So it's been a bit of a ride in the Church of England. You can imagine it's not always the easiest organisation to be a woman in, and a feminist. That's really been, I guess, quite sort of checkered over time.
Yeah, we know, we're in comedy, we get it. It's exactly the same.
But right now I've done all sorts of things, but right now I'm in a church called St James's Piccadilly. It's right by Piccadilly Circus.
Beautiful church.
An amazing community, and I've sort of we can say a bit more about it, but I've inherited a community that really wants to create the sorts of spaces that you were talking about, that is inclusive and joyful and strong. And I think those sorts of communities are what will provide a bulwark against what we're talking about today.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lucy. Minnie, can you just tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. It's so great to be here. So my name's Minnie. I think I would class myself as kind of a campaigner or an activist, but I've somehow landed up as a chief executive in a charitable organisation, which is a bit of a stretch from where an activist would traditionally see herself. But my sort of background is in community organising. It's been about social justice, race equality. I've worked a lot with communities that are marginalised, so lots of migrant communities of torture, and also most recently with the Grenfell community on a sort of restorative justice project before I came to Praxis. So kind of all of my work is about community empowerment, making sure that we're standing up for the things that communities need and making sure that we are really looking at things through a social justice lens.
And Praxis was started by a Christian group, is that correct?
Yeah, so for the listeners, Praxis is a migrants' rights organisation, but actually we started in the 80s. We were started by Christians, by the church essentially, as a response to fascism. And what actually happened was communities of faith came together with the local community in Tower Hamlets and was sort of acting as a community of resistance for all the violence and fascism that had occurred, and was looking towards supporting refugee and migrant communities in the area. And we also back then did a lot of kind of international solidarity work, so we were really important in kind of ensuring that migrant communities from Colombia, etc., were working towards communities of resistance. So, the relationship is that we've kind of gone from a journey of starting there, and now it feels like we're coming back right to where we started.
Did you tell me you have a monk working at Praxis?
Yes, that is right. So Praxis is no longer sort of expressly a faith organisation, but we are still based in a church. The church is downstairs and we occupy the upstairs building, and we do still have lots of people of faith working there, including a monk who turns up in his robes most days.
Does he?
He does.
And I didn't know monks could have side hustles, if I'm honest. This is the first time it's occurred to me that monks do other stuff. Like, how many days a week is he monking and how many days a week is he working at Praxis?
I think it's 7 days a week for both. I mean, he does lots of volunteer stuff on the side of Praxis, and he often does his prayers. Sorry, I'm not going to get the terms right, but he often does his prayers from the office at the end of the day. And yeah, he's a brilliant, amazing person.
I'd be quite keen to meet him. Because
I'd like a travel monk. Just a little monk. Imagine if a monk came with every building. I just think life would be a bit better.
Yeah,
just
I feel so.
Just a little peaceful dude in the corner.
Yeah.
Shaved head, wearing orange.
I don't necessarily think they wear orange, or they might be a Buddhist monk.
Oh, that's exactly what I'm thinking of.
No, I think he's a Christian monk. Is he a Christian monk?
Yeah, Franciscan monk.
Okay, cool. I didn't know there was Christian monks until...
Yes, you did. Friar Tuck. Friar Tuck's a Christian monk.
I didn't know that he was a Christian monk.
You thought Friar Tuck was Buddhist all this time?
I don't think about Friar Tuck! I I'm never thinking of Friar Tuck. The only time I'm ever thinking of Friar Tuck is when I see someone with that haircut and I go, oh, that's a Friar Tuck haircut. I don't go, I wonder if he's a Christian monk.
Yeah, I think Friar Tuck might be my Roman Empire.
Give us
Anyway.
a cheer. No. Let's take this to the group. Give us a cheer if you have ever... Give us a cheer if you knew that Christian monks exist. Give us a cheer if you didn't. You can be proud. It's okay to be dumb.
They're like male nuns.
Cool. Are there male nuns?
Yes, they're monks. Okay. All right. So now you wanted to ask Lucy a question.
Oh, look, it wasn't good, but Lucy, the first time, did you say it's the presenter?
Presenter.
Presenter?
Yeah.
What, the first time you sung, did you like pretend that you couldn't? Like going from being a professional singer and then singing in the fucking church. Imagine the first day going, who, me? Oh, okay. I will follow here. It's the only song I could think of. I'm sorry, it's from Sister Act 2. But was that an amazing... It's adjacent. They were nuns.
Did you? I think what my friend is trying to say is...
I need a translator.
Did you hold back or do they know... Is the presenter always a great singer?
It's a really good question.
Yeah, actually, Deb, it's a really good question.
In terms of the sort of the feminist theme of the podcast, St Paul's Cathedral has been there for 1400 years and never had a woman sung the mass, sung the chants until I sang them.
Wow!
In 1998.
Oh my God!
And now there's been lots. So I mean, it's not about me, but
now
it's about
for women singing. You know, I'm sick of it actually.
But that's so important that that now it's just really it's normalised. But it was it was a moment where.
How did it feel?
Well, it was sort of. Do you know? I mean, I had this I've said this book. I had this sort of reverse psychology because it was quite a tough time, and there was lots of opposition. There were people resigning. There was lots of thankfully it was before social media, but I had bags of hate mail. I mean, there was lots of
bags of hate mail.
Well,
from people who didn't want.
Yeah, because this sight of a woman with a dog collar, this is not possible for many people. And actually, in Christianity throughout the world, there's about 2.5 billion Christians in the world. Nearly all of them will never see this. Nearly all Christians will never hear a woman preach or celebrate the Mass or sing the Eucharistic prayer, which is a technical thing. So that globally, that's it. In the UK, we have the Church of England. We've now got our first woman Archbishop of Canterbury. Amazing. So that's been an amazing sort of step forward. But I never want to forget the global perspective that this is simply an impossibility. So there was, I was celebrating at the altar one time, singing, and this guy was standing there really looking, and one of my colleagues went up and said, are you all right? And he sort of said, yeah, why is that priest speaking with a woman's voice? Just priest and woman don't go together. Do not go together. So it was that, I think it was just very fundamental, and I think as I've reflected on it over time, people behave really badly sometimes when they feel that things are in peril, They just felt like their whole church was being taken away from them and something had gone badly wrong. So obviously they reacted just incredibly strongly.
Wow.
And I can see it now. At the time, in my late 20s, early 30s, it was pretty full on. But now I can see how it sort of happened, I guess.
This is not meant to be reductive in any way at all, but I often think about story and the power of story and the power of stories being beamed in through our televisions. Did The Vicar of Dibley, it was written by a friend of mine, did The Vicar of Dibley help because it normalised seeing that and we all loved Dawn French?
And Fleabag has helped us a lot as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Stop it right now.
So I'll go back to Vicar of Dibley because that's the question you asked. But so Vicar of Dibley did actually really help. So it was 2005, Make Poverty History. Do you remember the whole thing?
Yeah.
We were marching and so Richard Curtis had organised this thing where Dawn French was going to be leading 500 women priests. There weren't so many of us in 2005, so it was quite a big proportion of women priests in the country, leading us all to Downing Street with a petition to make poverty history. And so we all sort of, there was this really great moment where all these women in dog collars, there we all were, hundreds of us, and Dawn French was standing in front of us. The actual Vicar of Dibley was standing in front of us, but she wasn't dressed in her, because for her it's just a costume.
Yes.
So she had like a T-shirt on or something. And she just looked at us, and we looked at her, and she went, I can't really believe I'm here. And she said, do you all know each other? It's like, and we said, you're our head girl. I mean, it's just really odd. It was such an odd thing. Marched off to Downing Street, had lots of petitions and placards and stuff. So, yes, it really helped normalise. And to your point, I think, maybe we'll come on to this, but I think that's what the church, that's our job, is to tell different stories and to offer a different vision and to inspire people in a way that, amongst many other religions and many other groups, but to sort of create those spaces where you can tell a different story. And so those changes, I mean, we're so slow in the church sometimes, but when we change, we really did make a big change in ordaining women, and there's plenty of other changes since.
And this is really a question for both of you, but recently we saw the Tommy Robinson March, which had, you know, these, what I was talking about earlier, in people carrying crosses, lots of church insignia. And Lucy, the reason I contacted you was you were one of the people of the church who, amongst various bishops and other priests and vicars, who wrote a letter saying this doesn't represent us. And of course, this speaks to practice as well, because you work with refugees, Minnie, and you work with social justice, and you're trying to keep, to fight the far right and to fight what Tommy Robinson stands for. So how do you both, and you originally were a faith-based organisation, how do you both feel about where we're at now?
So I can speak from the migration sector's perspective, or the charitable sector. I mean, to be honest, this is the depressing bit, right? It is terrible. Like, it's not a great experience for refugee, asylum seekers, or migrant communities at all. And I think this hasn't started recently. Like, we've seen a really slow degradation in rights over the last 10 years. You can think all the way back to sort of Theresa May's hostile environment and what that meant in terms of how we view migrant communities, and that was kind of the beginning of the separation, I would say, in recent history. And then we've gone on this like really long journey where everything has sped up significantly since, I would say, since Brexit, really. And for migrant communities and for the charities supporting them, what that looks like is a real chilling effect. So for migrant communities themselves, there's a huge amount of fear, a huge amount of confusion, a huge amount of just sort of not understanding why they're being treated in this way, and what's wrong with the British public. And that splits into two groups. It's the migrants who've been here for a really long time, and new arrivals, and asylum seekers themselves, who are sort of in this position where they're being targeted all the time, every single day, in the media, physically in their homes, right? Because asylum accommodation is where they live, right? It's their homes, and they're being further and further isolated from the rest of the community. And for charitable organisations, we are also so under attack. We get attacks from the press and the media. Chris Philp MP had a public debate with Praxis in the summer before the Tommy Robinson March, because he had gone out and filmed at an asylum accommodation, and we had publicly said that was a dangerous thing to do, and we were subsequently correct because that was the beginning of a kind of summer of hostility. And charities are kind of experiencing this thing where the need in our communities is going up significantly, but we are also under attack in just delivering that service. And that's a new attack on the right to provide civic space, which is actually an attack on democracy. And so all of these things kind of coming together is painting quite a bleak picture. And that has culminated in sort of Tommy Robinson's march, going out, targeted attacks from the far right, the flags going up all across the country. That was a really scary moment for black and brown people and migrant communities. So yeah, feel pretty terrible. But I think we can come later on. Let's go on a bit of a journey towards hope, but that's kind of setting the context.
Do you know what I think is, absolutely Tommy Robinson and the media. What we are really lacking is an opposition to that in leadership, in politics. There is no one there's no one saying, the Greens Party is sort of saying that is bad, but there is no leadership, and this shits me about Labor. There's no one saying, what you want your country back? Great. What do you want? What are you missing? Let's see if we can do that rather than taking it away. And what I really think it's missing from this whole conversation is that there's no fucking leadership taking us out of this. There's just that side and that side saying they're really bad, and the other people are going they're really bad, and there's no one stepping in and being an adult. And I find it infuriating, but more than infuriating, it's dangerous and it's treacherous, and people's lives are at risk here. I don't know. I don't see that conversation happening at a top tier political level, and I think that is terrifying, and I think that's the most terrifying thing about it all.
I think when leadership has failed its people in terms of waiting lists for the NHS and the cost of living, and then the press is demonising a community, it's really easy for the leaders, instead of going, we need to fix these problems, people don't mind sharing if they've got enough, they are allowing they're allowing that finger to be pointed. How did you feel, Lucy, when you saw the crosses and the church insignia being used at the Tommy Robinson March?
I mean, I think I don't mean this to sound sort of off the point, but I think that it's a fundamental failure of imagination and then that feeds through to all types of leadership. I think you're right. Political leadership, religious leadership, cultural leadership. So I think there's a sort of inability somehow to put forward a different vision of what we could be like together, how we could live together. So the flag of St. George, I mean, it's ignorant as well. St. George probably had Iranian origin as a person, was martyred as a member of the Roman army, so as a state actor, but he was standing up for the rights of minorities, i.e. the rights of Christians in the Roman Empire. So it's sort of completely upside down to claim that he is somehow a poster boy for the sorts of arguments that are being put forward by Tommy Robinson. So without being sort of clever about it, what we really need to do is continue to reclaim George. George is a great sort of, he's a great early defender of the rights of minorities against the empire. That's who he actually is. So to sort of claim him on the other side, it's just ignorant. So I feel that I don't know all the motive, and we said it in our letter. There were lots of different leaders, church leaders and Christian leaders who wrote after that march, because it was, I felt sick seeing the cross being used in that way. And we put in our letter, and I think this is important too, because we want to have integrity as Christian leaders. So we're not just going to throw mud at everybody. We're going to say, I'm not going to make assumptions about the motivation of every single person in that rally. I don't know. There were some people absolutely there who I would, oppose until my dying day. There were other people who may have had a whole variety of reasons for going. But that's why it's the leaders. It's not necessarily everybody on the march, but the leaders to allow and to promote the use of the cross, and to say that is a sort of purist, a purist symbol that we're supposed to march behind, that then excludes particularly people who are coming as refugees. It's not just ignorant. It's wrong, and it also it's incremental. You know, it's very slow. It's very little steps. So you think, oh well, that's okay. Well, maybe is that maybe, and then suddenly it's like that old story of the frog in the water that slowly. The temperature slowly rises, and of course the frog dies eventually.
But I feel like
it.
that is happening now. Like when I was the newspaper article that I read out earlier today about Kieran Dewar, who was a bishop, and I did ask you before: is he a real bishop or is he just a man who's visited a costume shop? And we figured out he was from an Anglican sect.
He's from a group, I think, called GAFCON, which is it's a attractive acronym. But
they make a lot of mistakes there.
Global Anglican Futures Conference, I think, is what it's called. But essentially, it's church. So the Church of England is part of the Anglican Communion. That's about 1 million people around the world, something like that, maybe a bit more. And so GAFCON are the people who disagree with women's ordination, for sure, and they also disagree with the church's blessing same-sex relationships, for example. I mean,
which has recently been in question, hasn't it?
Yeah. Oh well, gosh. Yeah. The Church of England. So we're what am I allowed to do? I can never work out what we're allowed to do now.
There's someone you can ask.
I mean, essentially. So yeah, there's been a bit of a rowing back on that. That it's been all sort of procedural stuff, but when we are not permitted at the moment to bless same-sex relationships, we're certainly not permitted to marry people. We can say a blessing, and in fact, many of us, and I will. This is a podcast going out to lots of people, but I mean, many of us just get on with it. But there is a difference at the moment between being able to say a blessing within a main service and being able to say a blessing as a standalone blessing. It's just a technical sort of thing. But we're in a muddle.
That feels like it's pushing back.
Yeah.
Because there is a climate which is rolling back rights. There's a climate that is pushing away from lots of the progress that we've made in the last few decades.
I do think that narratives are being normalised. That is shocking. So I think, usually I would want to say, and I would still say that a church. I sometimes talk about the church not just as a place of worship. I mean, obviously it's a place of prayer, but I sometimes like to think of it as an incubator or as a laboratory or some sort of place where you can try stuff and you can experiment. And what we should be able to say is there's no story that can't be told here. We want to say that. At the same time, and so therefore these debates must be had in the light. If you don't have them in the light, they're had in the dark corners of the internet. So there must be, open debate, that's for sure. But some of the narratives that are being normalised are absolutely shocking. And when you put a cross in front of them, then it looks like God approves of it, and that just sends it up into the stratosphere. That's why we've got to be not just vigilant, but energetic and front-footed and joyful in our opposition of this nonsense.
Absolutely agree. Minnie, what have you been doing at Praxis to counter the rise of the far right?
So, in many ways, we are just continuing business as usual, which is actually a massive challenge in this climate and is super, super important. Like the far right targeting charities and saying that, asylum seekers are all sex offenders and all of this stuff. Keeping on with the work in that environment is an amazing achievement, and I just want to do a shout out to everyone who works at Praxis, because they do this work day to day. They go above and beyond, and to me that is resilience against the far right. Not giving up in the face of that is important. But I also think, one of the things that I've been trying to think about is what is it that will actually challenge the rise of authoritarianism in this country, and how does the migrant experience fit into that? Are we doing or communicating the right things that we need to about migration? And my reflection has been that one of the mistakes that we make is in treating migrant communities in isolation. So every time the right talks about migration and makes up these lies about what is happening with the asylum system and makes up these lies about who is legal and not illegal, etc., we fall into that frame by continuing to fight with them on their terms. And we just, I go and do an interview and I'm like, oh no, but that's not true, that's not true, that's not true. And nobody's listening to me because they've got a much stronger voice on this at the moment. When actually one of the really important things that this comes down to is the economy. And every time we're talking about migrants in that frame, we are not talking about the destruction of the economy, and we are not talking about how part of this is the rich and powerful trying to get more rich and more powerful. And I would like to bring migration into that conversation so that we can actually be like, well, actually, no, migrants are a fundamental part of our economy and a fundamental part of our communities. The NHS does not function without them. The agricultural industries do not function without them. The restaurant industry does not function without them. Everyone knows a migrant. All of your communities have migrants in them. Hope Not Hate did an amazing bit of research recently on the kind of rise of reform, and they found that when you ask people about a kind of national migration problem, they feel slightly concerned about it, they're not sure, they're playing into this media narrative. But when you ask them about their local community, they're like, this isn't a problem here.
Yes.
And so for me, the kind of challenge is, how do we reset the frame on migration so that we are connected and talking about the issues that are actually affecting the population? And for me, that's the economy, because the economy is what is being destroyed. That is the reason we don't have resources in our communities. That's why our communities can't organise properly. And that's kind of where we need to start.
That's the easiest thing, though, is to dress a class war up as a race war. That's the easiest way to do it, because then you don't have to talk. Then rich people can still make money. Yes, I am a filthy socialist.
How do we keep Christian nationalism out of our churches? Because I can see a future where, the men that I was talking about today that were in that newspaper article, they were waxing lyrical about Charlie Kirk when he died. And obviously I don't want anyone to die and I don't want anyone to be shot. This is not a celebration of that by any means. But it did make me think, if a young man who has those values comes along to a local church and says, look, there's 12 people coming here on a Sunday, but if you let me preach, I'll pack this out to the rafters. That would be, I think, quite an alluring prospect. There are a lot of churches that are packed out in America, and we wouldn't like the message, and we wouldn't feel that message would be inclusive or making the world a better place, and we wouldn't think those were Christian values or anything that Jesus said. But how do we stop it? How do we stop it? Because if people are going down to the beach to be baptised based on a social media post, what do we do, Lucy?
I mean, I think I haven't seen the article that you read today, but just from my experience of GAFCON and how that all works, I think we need to oppose this, and we need to make sure that we're standing up to that sort of story. But that I don't think that is succeeding. I mean, I honestly don't think that is succeeding. I think that the journalist is perhaps having a look at something and seeing something that's not quite there. However, you're right to say that. I mean, whenever there's a lot of discussion in churches about growth and about how we want to persuade more people to come to church. So numbers are important. And if you live in a democratic society, then majorities are important. So you want to get more people to come. But I often think to myself that in the history of humanity, lots of people in a big building, all facing in the same way, saying the same thing, does not have a great history. So that is not a sign of success necessarily. Authenticity is a sign of success. And if you want to build communities that are genuinely just and truthful and have something to offer in the sense of a different vision, then maybe you don't have churches that are all packed out by people who are, the phrase muscular Christianity was a phrase that was used a lot in the 19th and 20th centuries. Maybe that's not what Christianity is. And I don't mind if that's not what Christianity is, because that model is quite a capitalist model. It's saying my church is more successful than your church, and my charity is bigger than your charity. And I sometimes, you'll say for yourself, but sometimes I worry about the charity sector, that also sort of gives in to that competitive spirit, and then people's stories are instrumentalized. Why? Because you need to get the donations, because you need to grow, because et cetera, and so to help more people, of course, but I sort of reject the whole premise of the question, I think.
Right.
And
so you're not looking for more in numbers necessarily. You're not looking for quantity, you're looking for quality.
Yeah, but
and you think if quality is there, quantity will come.
I think that, I don't want to be naive about it, but we certainly in the church that I'm currently in, we're very blessed by people coming. They're coming along to join the community. So I'm not despising the numbers. I'm just saying that I don't know that building strength comes in different forms, and being over anxious about building large communities of people who all agree with each other in order to combat the large communities of people who agree with each other over there. I don't think that is the way to go. That doesn't feel to me like the answer. But trying to maintain a community or trying to build a community where genuine difference is held is incredibly difficult. It can be incredibly joyful, but it's also very difficult. And I think sometimes the church puts things in the too difficult pile and says, so we'll do this instead. And we sort of do stuff that's a bit easier. So we try and persuade people and say, you've got to agree with me before you can come.
Right.
I think that is capitalist as well, though.
Right.
You just go, well, this is a bit easier. We can, and this is the tried. This is the people that didn't agree with either liberals, big L liberals in Australia, which is our Tories. There was a couple of, not this election, but the one before, it looked like it was going to swing towards Labor because people were really worried about the big L liberals. Ultimately, the Liberals won because people were like, oh, we really believe, climate change is a big problem for us. But they're like, but we do love our second house. We love our second house. And there's the myth that, that Labor will destroy the economy again, even though the Tories actually did that. So there's those hangovers that people are afraid to take new risks or any risks based on old ideas. It's very hard to change. I didn't say anything there, but I did say a lot of words.
No, we understand what you mean, that it's hard to shift. It's really hard to make progress. It's hard to shift people's minds, but it's scaring me that this loud voice that's coming up in these communities, they are now using God. And I think that money is being pumped in from America where that strategy has worked. And I think we mustn't be naive about that.
Yes.
That I think what they're doing is, it was something like 2% of young men were going to church. Now 20% of young men are going to church.
Here?
At least once a month, according to
20%.
According to a recent YouGov survey. And I think it's Jordan Peterson. I think it's Russell Brand. I think it's the Manosphere podcasters and YouTubers. Now, if they're going to a church like St James's Piccadilly, where they're going to be taught about the joys of diversity and kindness and coming together, that's great. But my fear is that this is going to become a less secular and more hard right Christian nationalist country. And once that's in, it's very difficult to get out, because then it's just our God tells you it's wrong to be trans, it's wrong to be gay. That's end of story. And once you've been indoctrinated that way, it's very, very, having been in a religion where I was indoctrinated in a cultish religion, it's very difficult to unlearn those things. And so it's the easiest way to marshal young people into thinking the way you want them to think. So I kind of want our churches to stand up against this publicly.
Yeah, there's one sort of, this may feel like a slightly retro point, we've discussed it before, but I think, so when I was younger, first ordained, I thought the whole business of the Church of England being an established church was nonsense, and we clearly needed to disestablish that was, why was the monarch the head of the church, and why were there bishops in the House of Lords, and why did we have a House of Lords anyway, and all that stuff. So good, let's debate all of that. What I've realised, maybe I'm just old now, but what I've realised is there are some advantages to that, which is you sort of keep us where you can see us. So we have a very strong checks and balances in the Church of England anyway. This doesn't answer your point about other denominations, because some of them might do different things. But there is quite a strong system of checks and balances within an established church that can mean, if we're able to keep those strong, that can mean that sort of narrative would be challenged, because it's, and is being challenged, because it's part of a much bigger whole. That's not the answer, but I think there is a mechanism in there, and if Christianity is being taught in an authentic way, then there is a really strong link between what you say you believe and how you live your life. To your point about climate change with my second house and my fourth car, within a Christian narrative, if it's being taught authentically, you can't do that. You have to live out what you're talking about.
What your values are.
Absolutely. And so there's an imperative there. It's not just a sort of nice to have. That is what Christian community is. So I think we have the tool. What am I trying to say? I think we have the tools. I feel energetic and hopeful about all of this always, but we have the tools. I think we must not be, to your point, Deborah, we mustn't be naive about the use of a Christian narrative for other purposes, which is simply to gain power or simply to make people rich.
Because people aren't necessarily going to church in buildings anymore. They're going to church on podcasts. They're going to church on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I saw that very same bishop that I was talking about doing a sermon on growth mindset and wealth mindset, having a wealth mindset. And I was like, okay.
That's what Jesus said. He said growth mindset. They were a famous quote.
In the words of Jesus, how do I get that second house?
Yeah. Jesus loved negative gearing.
He was a big proponent of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Would anyone in the audience like to ask Minnie or Lucy a question?
Or me.
Or Flick. You might have a question. Does anyone have any questions? I can't see. You're in the dark.
Hello. I'm not sure whether it's a very good question, but I work for an organisation which has a faith museum, and we tell the story of different faiths from prehistory to the present day within this country. And I do a lot of work with young people around kind of exploring that story, but exploring that story in a really inclusive way. And I guess one of the problems that I really face in my work is that a lot of the young people where I work, we live in an area that's 97.5% white British and over 70% Christian. How do I reconcile telling both sides of that story, where it's a very strong Christian heritage, alongside a story where I'm trying to look at modern Britain today and bring in those stories of migrants? And we do work on, for example, the artwork of Khadija Say is a really big part of our work, alongside a wide range of kind of Christian artists. So I guess, it's a bit of an odd question really, but how do we reconcile both of those sides of our identity as a multi-faith country today in a way that is inclusive and helps our young people navigate these difficult questions that we all face and which we don't have answers to quite yet?
Oh, good question.
Yeah, that was a good question. I can't actually see where you are, but I'm assuming somewhere over there. Look, I think the thing that we need to understand about, and I was kind of going to add this to what you were saying, Lucy, that this is a manipulation of Christianity, right? We have to remember that it's a manipulation of Christianity for a political purpose. And I think often we can kind of get lost in what the far right and what even far right populist political parties want to achieve. And what is the solution to a manipulation of a political purpose is disinformation, misinformation. It is also the kind of they are organising, and that is something that we are not doing effectively. So what we actually need to do is combine these two things together so that we are responding to this threat of the Christian right with like, well, that's not what Christianity is about, because that's not actually what is going on in your communities. That's not why you're feeling this way. And if you want to be of Christian faith, why don't, or any faith at all, why don't you look at the fact that like when crises happen, it is very often faith communities who step up and step in to deliver on those things, and that's not a message that we understand properly. And my experience when Praxis was part of the riots in 2024, it was the mosques and the synagogues who told us how to be secure, right? So I think there is a piece missing here about what interfaith communication looks like, and when you cross that bridge of like, well, actually we're all in this together. It is Muslims and Jews who have been at the sharp end of this for an extremely long time. Now we're using Christianity to manipulate that. Let's come to this together, because if you really want to be of faith, that is the connecting factor. And so, yeah, when you're talking to your kind of your young people, I think identification of the problem is like really important. What is it that they are feeling that is pushing them to more extreme views, and where they're getting that information from? And I think that's really, really hard to do when, as you say, they might all agree with each other because they're in that 97.5%. But we have to get to the heart of what the issues are that people are experiencing in our communities, and organise in our communities, because that is the only way you beat the challenge of an organised far right.
Any other questions?
Deb, where can I get that cheese grater from?
Trinity London. My question for both of you is, what can we do to help? What gives you hope, and what can we do to help? Because we've got a lot of listeners, and lots of them will respond to different things. They'll pick up on different things. So is there anything we can help you with, anything you'd like us to do, and what gives you hope?
I'm going to say something a bit odd, I think. Quite often we will read the books and listen to the people that we already agree with. And there's nothing wrong with that, because we have to organise, exactly what you said, organise. But I think in order to really understand and combat some of these narratives, we have to place ourselves in those places where we're going to turn up to listen to somebody that we really fundamentally disagree with, and learn the tools to listen, to understand it, and then confront it. But we don't really have those tools at the moment. We're too polarised, I think.
And I think it's also the onus, I don't want to speak for all white women, but it's not safe for lots of people to do that. It's not safe for lots of people of colour to do that. To go and speak to racists and go, why don't you like me?
And visibly queer people as well.
And visibly queer people. It's sort of up to, it's kind of up to white people, I feel like it is, to go up. So I won't name the family member. I have a family member who's very, very racist. He's very racist. He's always been racist. And I've always had arguments with him. And one day he started going on about Muslims. And then my sister arced up, and I usually do the same thing. And then I said, can I just say something? He's like, I'm entitled to my opinion. And I'm like, you absolutely are. I said, can I just say, whenever I see you meet someone for the first time, you always shake their hand. You always have a joke. I don't see you, when you interact with people, treat them any differently. And so for me, what you say and how you act, they don't line up for me. And this person was 65 years old and doesn't read and write great. And he said to me, yeah, well, maybe I shouldn't generalise. What? What? I didn't even know he knew the word generalise. It was like life-changing. And that happened maybe 5 years ago. And it's a very close family member. And I just went, oh, I've got to stop yelling at them. Like it's and obviously the big debate is why should we have to try and coax our oppressor over? Like, I understand that, but the alternative is that we don't, and the alternative is that it gets worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about this, that we need to start getting in professional persuaders, and we need to learn from them. We need to start figuring out what professional persuaders know, what people who get hostages out of situations know? Like, we need to find out, we need to upskill massively.
Well, I think it's I don't know if this is going to sound not relevant. I think it's people like Kneecap. So Kneecap and Joe Rogan actually have a very... Do you remember when Trump... The possibility was between Trump and Biden didn't get the nomination. A lot of people went to Trump who were going to vote for Biden because they just didn't want establishment. And when you've got Joe Rogan, what he does is he taps into masculinity and he taps into an anger and a lot of disillusioned men. Kneecap do exactly the same thing except for Palestine. So I think that there is a sliding doors where you can actually represent something that's important to these people, but you present it in a different way, or you offer a different role.
Well, what you were doing strategic there, you were saying, but I see you be kind to individuals. Instead of saying you're racist, you were saying, I don't see evidence of that in your day-to-day life. I see the values you live are kindness and connection and judging everyone on their merits. And so you said, I see you as better than these ideas. And very few people want to turn around and go, no, I'm not better at all.
I actually love the racism.
I am much worse than you think.
Yeah.
That's all fake. They want to live up to your best expectations.
And I think that speaks to what Minnie was saying about how that no one is experiencing what they're talking about in their community specifically. Not no one, but lots of people are not experiencing that, but they're afraid that it's coming.
Because they're told that. Minnie, what can we do to help you and support you in what you're doing, and what gives you hope?
Yeah, so on the what gives me hope side, I mean, I think I sort of alluded to this earlier, but every day at work, I see these values being expressed on the ground between people of all faiths and none, all races, all genders, all sexualities, coming together to unite around things. And it is honestly every single day. And so every time I'm feeling sort of horrendous about the big political situation, I look at my community and I go, this is not us, and we can rise to the challenge of this. And then I also kind of look at the international picture of what's going on, because I think we are very, very focused on like, Europe bad, USA bad. But actually in South America, across Latin America, they have defeated the far right in several countries, and there are loads of learning that we can get from those places on how they did it, and it was strategic, and this is not necessarily going to be our status quo because we are actually early.
How do we find out about that? Like, who can do that analysis for us?
I'm sure there's academics and experts and activists in those countries who are doing amazing work that we can just learn from and listen to and say, well, we can apply some of that here. So that
maybe we need to interview people how they did it there.
Oh, yeah.
How did you bring down Bolsonaro?
Yes, yeah.
Minnie, you and I need to talk about how we could do that, and maybe
100%, yeah.
get somebody on.
Yeah.
And go on, sorry, yes.
Yeah, no, and I was just going to say on the kind of what can we do? Look, I have to make the pitch for the charitable sector, right? Like, find an organisation in your local area, give it your time, give it your money, give it your support, whether that's following them on social media or signing up to their mailing list. It is a fundamental way that praxis is going to exist if we fail to meet the challenge. So let's say that, a far-right political party wins the next election. Your support is what will keep us going in that moment, and we need to be able to plan and be resilient for that. So that means the work starts now. We plan for the worst and hope for the best.
Great. And Lucy, do you think at St James's Piccadilly we could do some kind of Guilty Feminist with less swearing?
I will not be invited.
I mean, it's got a great echo, so if you swear, it goes on for like 4 seconds. Exactly. You'd be absolutely welcome. Yeah, let's do something now.
I think it would be great, because I think we need to bring like communities of people who want the same things, no matter our faith or lack of, together. And I really would like to work with the church, and I've never said this before or thought this before in my life, not since I left the Jehovah's Witnesses, but now I'm feeling like I need good people of faith in leadership like you to work with us, and we need to pull in your direction as well, so that you have woman power, as it were, behind you, and that an encouragement as well. I think a lot of what you're saying about praxis is also, you need encouragement. You need to know there's support, there's people, whether you can afford to give or not, you can afford to be on the mailing list, and more people popping up on the mailing list encourages everybody. The way that like people joining the Green Party has encouraged everybody. We've gone, oh, well, there's a not that everyone has to be, on the side of the Green Party. You may have all your own political persuasions, but just the fact that people have started joining for a leader who's saying things that we want to hear boldly is encouraging all of us.
And it's something that we say something about the church, but the church is one of the few institutions in society that exists for the benefit of the people who do not belong to it. That's incredibly important. So you don't have to sign up. You don't have to believe a whole heap of stuff before you're allowed in. And that's again it's a lie that's perpetrated by people who want to build closed communities of lots of people pointing in the same direction, saying the same thing. And that is what fascism looks like, as in many circumstances. So we have to have a different vision of what that sort of faith community looks like.
To be fair, so is stand-up comedy. That's a lot of people facing the same way.
Direction.
Listening to someone.
It's very difficult to tell the difference between church stand-up comedy and fascism sometimes.
It's a fine line.
It depends on who's up the front.
Sometimes the Venn diagram's a circle.
It's so true. We've got to finish, but is there anything you came to say that you didn't get to say, Lucy or Minnie? Any final words? Flick, have you got anything to
I've
plug?
actually got a 10-minute routine that I
Have you got anything to plug? Any shows coming up? Podcasts?
I don't think I've got. I don't know, Deb. I've got ADHD. I don't know. I think I don't know when does this come out?
In a few weeks' time.
No.
Okay. All right.
Go to Instagram. That's where I put any of my gigs. I'm gigging. That's sort of what I'm doing.
Okay, great. Go to Felicity Ward's Instagram and website, and you'll be able to follow what she's doing. In the meantime, you can also find out what's happening at St James's Piccadilly by searching for St James's Piccadilly. And Praxis also has a website. Do check it out. And I hope to be able to do something at St James's Piccadilly, which is one of the first places I went when I came to London. I just thought it was wonderful. I used to go to the cafe there.
Oh,
and
fantastic.
I just
Okay,
love
great.
it. I love it.
Let's do it.
Let's make it happen. And I also need you to know, Lucy, that you were not the first person I approached, but when I saw St James's Piccadilly, I was like, oh, this is wonderful. And everything you wrote that I read, I thought, oh, you're the right one.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, I did. I think I did say to you, I did approach some bishops, but it's very difficult to get a bishop to call you back. I don't know if you've ever tried. Bishops are not available, or maybe not available.
Busy.
Not interested in me, I'll tell you. Do you think the Archbishop of Canterbury would come on?
I think it's the word guilty. I mean, it's quite tough. It's quite tough, right? We have to turn up.
I'm
guilty.
But I'm choice pickings for them because I know I'm guilty and could turn. So you don't want someone who's already baked. Surely you want to win me over.
No, it's true actually. Yeah, that's true.
I think I offer the best of everything. All right, that would be really, really wonderful. So could I please have a huge round of applause for our incredible guests, Minnie Rahman and Lucy Winkett. And of course, my wonderful co-host, Felicity Ward.
And of course, the wonderful host, Deborah Frances-White.
Now, I'm so happy. We've done 3 shows and they've all sold out so far. On the 23rd of November, I will be at the Bill Murray with Susan McComa, and we've got Jane Bradley, who was one of the New York Times journalists who broke the story about the definite links between reform and the ADF. But that is sold out, but there's a waiting list. And people do drop out, so if you want to go on the waiting list to try and come to that. On the 6th of December at 2 p.m, which is a Saturday matinee show at the Soho Theatre, Grace Petrie and I will be talking to Russell T Davies, the wonderful showrunner behind It's a Sin, Queer as Folk, and Doctor Who, amongst many others, is going to talk to us about the power of story, especially for the LGBTQ plus community. He gave an incredible speech at the Welsh BAFTAs that many of you may have heard. He's very inspirational. And he's going to come and talk to us there. There'll also be music from Grace Petrie. That will be a lovely one. There's very few tickets left for that, so if you'd like a ticket, get that now, as they're going very, very fast. And I'm really happy we're doing that in Soho, because they've just had a big intimidating march through by some Christian nationalists who call themselves the King's Army, who are being very homophobic. So it's going to be nice to take up some space in Soho talking about those things. Also on the 17th of January, we're doing an open space at Amnesty International, to talk about how we can come up with our own projects, like what we've been talking about tonight. If either of you would like to come and or bring people, it's going to be really good fun. We're going to be all day. We're going to get Neil Datter over from, who's been on our show before, who's very important to this cause, over from Belgium. It's going to be great. So put that in your diary, and you just email us, guiltyfeminist@gmail.com, and say you'd like a space, and in due time we'll let you know what's happening with that. But put the 17th of January in your diary. And then, of course, we hope to do more shows. Keep coming to the shows, keep telling people. And some of the things can be very, very low lift. It can be very small, but it can have a big, big, big impact. And I think us just coming together, going out tomorrow feeling positive, energised, talking to people. When people say, "Oh, reform going to get in, we can't do anything about it," you're going to feel differently about that, and you're going to have different sorts of conversations. You're going to have different chats on your WhatsApp group. You're going to suggest different books for your book club. If you haven't got a book club, you're going to start one, and you're going to start with The Handmaid's Tale. You're going to just small things can have a very, very big impact. So thank you so much for coming out and being with us on this journey. We have just been blown away by the response to the road to Gilead, and we really hope to do a 180 and be on the road, absolutely leading away from Gilead. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. You've been an absolutely wonderful audience. Some would say the finest audience of your generation. You have been listening to The Guilty Feminist with me, Deborah Frances-White, guest co-host Alison Spickle, and our very special guests, Minnie Rahman and Lucy Winkett. The recording engineer was Chris Sharp. The Guilty Feminist theme tune was composed by Mark Hodge. The producer was Tom Smitsky for the Spontaneity Shop. Thanks to Gina Dicio, Zainab Mohammed, Ned Sedgwick, Georgia Tennant, as well as everyone at the Pleasance, and all of you for listening. For more information about this and other episodes, visit guiltyfeminist.com.